Hi, I'm Jason, member of the Teen Advisory Board with Howard County Library System, and today I'm going to show you how to work with while and do-while loops, as well as show you what the keywords continue and break mean. So, let's start off with this first line of the code. Int counter equals 0. So what we do here is we create an integer variable called counter and set it equal to 0. So now, this next part is our while loop. So what a while loop does is it first evaluates the condition, and the condition is what is in between these parentheses. So it evaluates if counter is less than 10, it will print out this code block, system.out.println counter, and then do counter plus plus, which is it will set counter to 1 more than it previously was. So if counter is 0, it will evaluate is 0 less than 10, and it will evaluate to true. So it will run this code block, so it'll print out 0 and then set counter to 1. So it will keep doing this until counter is 9. So if counter is 9, it will evaluate this condition, and 9 is less than 10, so it will evaluate to true, and then it will print out 9 and then set counter equal to 10. So now the condition is false. Counter, which is 10, is not less than 10, so it will not run this code block. So this while loop should print out 0 to 9, and let's see if it does. So it does 0 to 9, so it'll print out 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then when counter equals 10, this condition will evaluate to false, so it will not run this code block. So that is our while loop. Let's go on to our do while loop, which is this part. So we've set counter back to 0, and the difference between a while loop and do while loop is the while loop will evaluate the condition before running the code block, but the do while loop will run this code block once and then evaluate the condition. So if counter is 0, it'll print out 0 without evaluating if 0 is less than 10, and then it'll do counter plus plus, which sets it equal to 1, and then it will evaluate is 1 less than 10, because remember we set it equal to 0, to 1. So it will evaluate is 1 less than 10, yes it is, so it will evaluate to true, and then it'll come back here and run the code block again. And so it'll keep doing this until the condition evaluates to false. So in this case, we said that counter was 0, so it'll print out 0, then set it equal to 1. 1 is less than 10, so it'll evaluate to true, and then it'll do it again. It'll print out 1, set counter equal to 2, and then 2 is less than 10, and it'll keep doing this until counter is 9. So if counter is 9, it'll print out 9, and then it will set counter equal to 10, and then it will evaluate the condition. Is 10 less than 10? It is not, so then it will stop the loop and go to this next line. So what our do while loop should do is it should print out the numbers 0 to 9. So let's see if it does. And it does 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then once counter was equal to 10, it stopped the loop because the condition evaluated to false. So that is our do while loop. Now let's take a look at the keywords continue and break. So first, let's skip over this part and just look at the while loop. So we have a while loop here. We set counter equal to 0. If counter is less than 10, it will set counter to 1 more than it previously was. So in the first iteration, or the first loop of this while loop, if counter is 0, it will evaluate is counter less than 10. It will evaluate to true since 0 is less than 10, and then it will change counter to 1. So we're skipping this part for now. We'll come back to it in a second. And then, so if counter is now 1, it'll print out 1. Now, let's come back to this part. If counter is 4, continue. So what that means is if counter is equal to 4, it will skip the rest of the loop. So the rest of the loop is just this one line, and then it will go back to the beginning. So let's say counter was equal to 3 at the beginning of the while loop. So the condition is 3 less than 10? It is, and now counter is set to 4 on this line. But this evaluates to true, so is counter equal to 4? It is, so it will skip the rest of the loop, which is just this line, and it will not print out 4. It will not print out counter. So right now, this while loop should print out 1 to 10, except for 4. So it does, it prints out 1, 2, 3, and then it skips 4 and does 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's because when counter was equal to 4, it skipped this line, it skipped the system.out.print line, and it just never printed out 4, and it came back to this part. So that is the continue keyword. It skips the rest of the loop and then goes back to the beginning of the loop. So we've looked at the continue keyword, but now let's take a look at our last part, which is the break keyword. So this is a little different than the continue keyword. So again, we'll skip this part for now and just take a look at our do while loop. So we have counter set back equal to 0, and it just prints out this code block before evaluating if the condition is true or not. So we're skipping this part. So it prints out counter, so it'll print out 0, and then it'll set counter equal to 1 more than it previously was. So it'll set counter equal to 1, and then if the condition is true, which it is, 1 is less than 10, it'll go back here and then run this code block. So now let's take a look at this. If counter is equal to 4, break. So this is a little different than our continue keyword. The continue keyword skipped the rest of the loop and then went back to the beginning. But our break keyword skips the rest of the loop and then skips the entire rest of the loop. Or it skips the entire rest of the iterations. It will not run again. So what our break keyword does is if counter is 4, it will not run any more of the loop and it'll just go to this next line. So what it should do is it should only print out 4 numbers, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So let's see if it does. So yes, it only prints out 0, 1, 2, and 3 because when counter was set to 4, 4 is less than 10, so the condition was true. But if counter was equal to 4, it broke out of the loop. So that is our do while loop. And that is all for today. We covered our while loops, do while loops, the keyword continue, and the keyword break.